All right, here we are, ordering and comparing decimals. For our next unit, it's all going to be about decimal operations, Unit 2. Notice the sheet that talks about your homework does not have any mild homework. If you need a mild assignment, you can see me for one of those, but otherwise, all homework should be in the medium and spicy range. And notice we're starting with comparing and ordering decimals, which is much like what we did with integers in the last unit. This first pre-assessment you should have completed, and I will have an answer key in class for you to check your answers. You should use that to determine which homework you're going to do. The Unit 2 vocabulary I will give to you, so please can you pause the video and record this onto your vocabulary. Notice, a rational number is a number that can be written as a fraction. It has a decimal that terminates or repeats. So you need to know that a repeating decimal, or a repetand, is a rational number that repeats forever. A terminating decimal is a rational number that has a decimal that ends. So notice these are also positive and negative, and now we know how to deal with negatives, so we're going to apply that to decimals. Comparing and ordering decimals. Please take out a loose leaf sheet of paper or a Cornell Notes sheet of paper and record the notes on that. You will staple that to the back of your packet, and I can help you with that tomorrow in class. Just make sure you have your notes. For comparing and ordering, the first step, please jot this down, pause the video if I go too fast, is to separate all the positive and negative numbers. So put all the negatives on one side and all the positives on the other side. Then you need to line up the decimals. So line up the decimals for all the negative numbers and line up all the positive numbers. Next, you should fill in any blank spaces with zeros. So if there is a number that is shorter than others, then you need to do zeros so that they all line up and are the same length. Next, you think of the bigger numbers, put all the positive numbers, they work the way that they normally have worked, where you go from least to greatest. But for negative numbers, notice the bigger negative ones are actually smaller. They're further from zero. So those, you can also think of money. If you're in debt, you have more debt, then that's going to be smaller than if you have less debt. And also, you could also pretend that the negative numbers are positive, but then do the opposite. That works especially well when you have a sign, when you're comparing, and you just have to write greater or less than. Let's try an example. So here's the example. Negative 5.4 versus negative 5.48. So that's negative 5 4/10 and negative 5 48/10. You need to determine which one's bigger. So you need to line them up. I'm going to rewrite them so they're the same length. They're both negative, so that helps. If one were negative and one were positive, then that would be pretty easy. You wouldn't have to do much. But in this case, they're both negative. Notice this one has 2 decimal places, so I have to add a 0 here. Next, I determine which one is actually bigger, but because it's negative, makes it smaller. So this one right here with 48 hundredths is actually bigger, but because it's negative, then it's going to be smaller. Go ahead and write in the inequality. Remember that the alligator eats the bigger number. So you can even put little teeth for now in your notes if you need to remember that. If you're ordering from least to greatest, let's say this is your set of numbers that you have to order from least to greatest. Then you are going to remember to line up all the positives together and all the negatives together. Let me see if I can make this screen a little bit bigger for you so you can see it better. All right, you put all the negatives on one side, all the positives on the other, and then you have to make them the same length. So notice this one has 2 digits. I need it to have 3. This one has 3. This one has 2. It needs to have 3. This one has 2. It needs to have 3. Next, you start with the biggest negative number. Remember, the biggest is actually the smallest. And remember, you can also think money. So this could be like if you have all the same digit, the first digit doesn't even count. You could cover this up, which I'm going to cross it out, but don't cross it out on your paper. Just think of that being missing. And then you could think of these as just hundreds. 410, 154, 510. So I'm going to start with the biggest, negative, and then I'm going to work my way down. When you rewrite it as it was originally written. So this is wrong. Sorry. Okay, and then next, you will have your positive number. This should work for every problem. On your homework, you should either do medium right here or spicy. And if you're doing spicy, please pause the video and write those numbers in that was left off by mistake. Have a great day.